Welcome to FM 1059 Radio, a Chinese radio network, Canada Living Program. On the house, we have a special guest from City of Vaughan, the Mayor of City of Vaughan, Maurizio Bevilacqua. Welcome, and 恭喜發財.
恭喜發財 to you as well.
恭喜發財. So on the line, we also have our program host, Ben Leung. Can you fire off the interview with the City Mayor of Vaughan?
Welcome, Mayor. It's a New Year Day and it's a year off today. And let's have a few greetings to our audience and also our radio listeners. So, 恭喜發財 and welcome, Mayor, join us. Let's say a few nice words to our Chinese audience.
Yes, well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you because a lot of great things going on in the city of Vaughan. And as you know, your community is very active in our city. It is growing. It is a community that I have a great deal of respect for, very entrepreneurial, family-based individuals who care about each other. And culturally speaking, real rich and vibrant culture, which really enriches the spirit of our cities in ways that really brings together all that is wonderful and beautiful about human existence. And I just wanted to express my sincerest gratitude as you celebrate this new year. May it bring you health, prosperity, and peace and tranquility to the community. And I'm looking forward to sharing some exciting news about what's going on in our city of Vaughan, a city on the move, a city where people are focused on bringing about positive change to their own personal lives, a city with great economic numbers, and a city of choice for many people. As you know, we speak 105 different languages here in the city of Vaughan. We're drawing people from all over the world. They see our city as a city of opportunity. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Vaughan in Chinese is a very positive.
Yes, correct, 100%. Yes, that means prosperity.
It means prosperity. And so maybe there's a connection there between the Chinese community and what we stand for. And prosperity, as you know, prosperity is not just about finances and money.
Yeah,
it's about prosperity of the spirit, prosperity of the human condition. Because at the end of the day, we collectively as a community, what we really want to do is bring about positive change to people's lives by improving their quality of life, by improving their standard of living, and also doing this in a spiritual way where people feel joy and contentment, because that is fundamental to building a great city. I often speak about this.
Yeah, and also people, when they feel proud to be a resident of one, they have the sense of belonging. That's called prosperity. And they love to go back there. Doesn't matter where they go. They find that go back to the city is where their home. That's the sense that people are looking for. Under your leadership, I believe one has been making the economy grow, and also there's a lot of infrastructure, and also there's a lot of other improvement to the entire city. So I like to listen your insights about what's going on in the city of Vaughan now.
Yes, I can tell you when I became mayor back in 2010, mission was to always reach the full potential of our city, and in many ways, with the help obviously of the community, we've been able to really achieve great things in the city. And that tells you something, that city building is really about pooling the resources of every single individual together so that we can, in fact, do great things here in the city. I do want to say something though, that there's something called what I refer to, and you've probably heard me speak about this, which is very important for people to know in your community and beyond your community. And that is that we are blessed. We have a what I refer to as the Vaughan advantage. And the Vaughan advantage is something that is rooted in our people. We are a highly skilled and highly educated population. We are one of Canada's fastest growing municipalities, and I might say perhaps even one of fastest growing in North America. We have very strong economic base. We also have the 400 series highway. As you know, in order to have a competitive advantage, you have to have infrastructure that facilitates economic growth. And by that, I mean, the 407, the 400, the 427. We are also looking potentially at other infrastructure investments. And you look at, for example, the subway that we have. We are the only city outside of the city of Toronto with a subway. And as a result of that, we have been able to build around the subway a place called the Vaughan Metropolitan Center. Now, to put it in perspective, the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, when we look at the projections that we had in 2031, we are at 267%. So we have gone over the numbers, projected numbers, by quite a margin. And so when you look at the Metropolitan Center, I brought some statistics here just to give you a sense. We're achieving 267% of residential unit and 253% of our population targets. To put it in perspective so that people get a sense of what it looks like, there are 2,137 units that are occupied, 4,380 units that are under construction, 6,758 units approved by council, 5,125 units submitted as part of the complete development application, and 13,593 units identified in pre-application projects. I say these numbers, I'm very specific about it, so that people understand what is actually happening in the city of Vaughan. This is, and even with COVID, COVID-19 has slowed down a lot of, as you know, it's been a very a global challenge, not just a local challenge. What we have found in the first quarter of 2020 back then and 2021, what we found in 2020 was that there was actually an increase of 60% compared to the previous 3 years. So, and what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that people here see the city of Vaughan as a city that can, in fact, provide opportunity for people. And so I give you these stats as a way to illustrate the growth. But remember that behind every statistics, there are business people, there are individuals, there are families, there are children that are the manifestation of these statistics. So this city is very much alive, but we've made some strategic investments that I think have worked very well. We invested heavily in transit, the subway. As you may know, I'm very involved in the Vaughan, Cortolucci Vaughan Hospital. I chair a campaign of $250 million called the Ultimate Campaign. And to put it in perspective, I want you to know that that we got out of the $250 million, where right now we are at approximately 180 already, which tells you that the spirit of generosity defines our city. It's a city that people are doing exceptionally well. We have high economic growth, but people, as you probably observed attending many of our functions, are people that are very generous and give of themselves in a way that speaks to the highest form of philanthropy and understanding that we are in this together, that we need to build this community in a way that represents the very best of what humanity has to offer.
Actually, yes, as what we talk about prosperity, is the people has the sense of belonging. You just mentioned about all those housing units add together from the new house occupied today and also under the planning. It's all over 35,000, those units. It's average around 2.2, 2.3 person per unit. We're talking about moving a new population to a city of Vaughan. It's over 80,000 to 100,000 people. So how are you going to make more jobs and make people stay in the Vaughan so they don't need to really commute too much, or the city have a plan that allow people to live within a smaller circle, that they can have all the activity accessed within certain period of time, short period of time, and they can really have their own life, stay, spend, buy, shop in city of Vaughan.
Like a 15-minute community. Yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, we've done everything that we can to make sure that people feel connected, and you have to provide the amenities required for them to enjoy life here. And you know, that means also investing in areas that speak to the environment and place green spaces. And there's plenty of that in the city of Vaughan. There's also the opportunity, because we are attracting a lot of capital and we are investing in infrastructure. This maintains a very strong economy, but we do have a very strong labor force base, which makes our city very attractive. And you have to also appreciate the fact that ultimately what we need to do is to keep the economy going. We also have to continue to attract a labor force, and this is where, for example, housing becomes very important, right? And we want to talk about this issue because it's very important. As you know, we are becoming a very expensive city in reference to real estate, one of the most expensive in the province of Ontario and in the country. But we also had made decisions, for example, to enable secondary suites, which, you know, has increased our housing supply. Just recently, I also promoted with a number of developers the fact that they should build 10%, whatever project they do, they should have 10% accessible, affordable housing.
Yeah.
And by that, I do not mean subsidized housing. I
Yes.
mean ownership at a lower cost.
Correct. Actually, many years ago, when I was traveling in the States, I heard radios that City of Vaughan has placed some advertising saying that City of Vaughan is very easy direct connect to the US, because just going down 400 at 41 QEW and then all the way to the state. Now, under the new Biden government, do you think the US will import more Canadian goods, and how Vaughan prepared to make goods made in Canada, so we have a chance to export more our goods from Canada to the US?
Yeah, I think that it's very fundamental for us to continue to have a very healthy economic relationship with the United States. It's one of the largest trading relationships in the entire world. Billions of dollars cross the border every day here between Canada and the US. And we are part of that, very much part of that exchange. Many companies in the city of Vaughan export to the United States. I know some companies, for example, in the plastics industries and manufacturing, that have seen, you know, that 80%, 70% of their business is with the US, and the rest is domestic or with other countries. I think that the Biden administration, depending on how they are going to relate to what kind of foreign policy they're going to have in reference to trade, will provide us perhaps an opportunity to even augment and improve the trading relationships. But these are, as you know, these are very interesting times for the world, not just for the city of Vaughan, but there's a new world order emerging, partially because of COVID-19, but also I think countries are trying to reposition themselves in the world economy, and it's going to require us to be innovative. It's going to require us to focus on quality products, to create specialization in niche markets that are typically Canadian and that can serve the United States, obviously, because it's our closest market, but also to have a broader view, to start thinking more globally about the opportunities that are out there. But we are an export-based country as well. At one point, you know, we were largely resource based. We continue to be resource based, but I do think that developing a more innovative, technologically advanced country will help with the exports, with the production, and it's key because today a lot of things are based on ideas. You know, you have you know, Amazon. Amazon, for example, is, you know, their business has expanded rapidly, but you know, it's very interesting. Amazon really doesn't produce the products; they just deliver them. But yet they're the biggest now, the biggest company in the world. But they don't produce anything.
Yeah,
actually, when you talk about technological innovation, and looks like the world has a target to have zero emission on a lot of automobiles in the next 10, 20 years. And in the past, City of One always gives people an impression that it's a heavy or semi-heavy industry. A lot of them in City of One. How, just like what Mayor said, how you incorporate technology into your manufacturing and like automobile in the future? Is any plans for City of One automobile?
Well, the City of Vaughan has a very active manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector in the City of Vaughan also recognizes that it's a field that it's forever changing, and you have to bring in new ideas to the market. I mean, do you ever remember in our past, after the war, for example, that, you know, a company could become very wealthy just with a technological app, right?
Sure.
You know, so the focus has to be always on value added. You know, what value does it add? What value does it add to the well-being? And you know, when you really come down to it, manufacturing, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's a service industry, it always comes down to the ability to be centered on making people's lives better, more convenient. They'll have services that are more accessible, they're user-friendly. This is where the value added is coming in now. And you probably noticed in Canada, the manufacturing sector was been kind of a decline. That is not our experience here in the City of Vaughan. In the City of Vaughan, we know that manufacturing has gone up 3.4% per annum since 2010. So imagine every year you're growing at 3.4%. You know, after 10 years, 34%, these are incredible numbers, and it's 1/5 of our local GDP. We employ more than close to 40,000 people in that sector, which has been growing by 1.2% over the years. And we have more than over 1,000, close to 1,500 manufacturing businesses, around 1,300 or so, which is the 8th largest sector by business count. That's 6.9% of Vaughan's businesses.
Yeah, that's, at least we have our product. We all knew that right now, just like what Mayor said, Amazon have no brand, just have a platform. They make big business. In the past, Nike, Adidas, they have a brand, they have no factory, they still make money. But
yes, and branding is very important, but branding should not be underestimated because branding is value driven. In other words, what I mean by that, a brand represents something that people are seeking. You know, just do it means a lot of things to people, right?
Yep.
And branding, and remember that, you know, it's a small percentage of the GDP is spent in marketing, right? But marketing, nevertheless, is very important. When you look at the worldwide percentage that is spent in marketing, even if it was 2 or 3% of the entire global GDP, that's a lot of money.
Yep.
And it's a lot of investment because people recognize that people want to be attached to something. They want to feel part of something. And so you have, you know, the Nike generation, and you have so many other products that people identify with. And so branding has become very important because what it does is it relays a message about the character, the integrity, and the purpose of the company, and the mission statement of the company.
Yeah. So anyway, let me you know, like inject some of the business that I know about City of Vaughan. And basically, like City of Vaughan is the 3rd largest employment city in the GTA area, right after Toronto and Mississauga. So you have a big manufacturing sector. And not only that, there's a lot of innovative application. To tell you a few, like I just want to remind you, Mayor, you guys are the first, city in Canada to pilot the drone. If you
Yes,
remember,
I
the
remember. I
Canada
did
Drone
that.
Center, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you also have a hotel. I can't remember where exactly it is. It's doing using a robot to do room service. And
mm,
there's a lot of creative idea. And then once one city is so close to the airport, you also create a walk-in kiosk for those overseas visitors if they want a business area. City of One have that area for them to directly connect it to the business right away.
mm.
More or less like a semi-office. So I can see City of One is doing a lot of innovative things. You have the biggest mall in Toronto, and okay, you could be the biggest like a Jung Center, Canada. You never know.
Yes.
So it's a very
And you
dynamic.
have to be open to change. I mean, the drone was a perfect example. I mean, a lot of other cities were not willing to risk, right?
Yep.
And the reality is you need to be, and you also have to be alert to the global changes. I mean, look at COVID-19, for example. We were monitoring COVID-19 6 weeks prior to the WHO declaring a global pandemic.
Yep.
That's why we were ready. You
Yep.
probably remember that I was the first mayor to declare a state of emergency for COVID-19.
Yep.
And then I closed down City Hall, and I closed down the community centers and libraries. And people thought that that was being a little bit too
No, that was
No, no, no.
stern.
that move. That
But the
was
reality is, look what happened after. And so,
They just
and
follow. Other cities just follow.
and through
Yeah.
COVID-19 also, we're talking about innovation. COVID-19, we went virtual on everything. And even like our libraries, you would be surprised by the number of people that use our curbside approach. Thousands upon thousands of items are picked
I
up.
saw your figure. It's pretty impressive. Yeah.
But it is. It's quite. But it also shows that the people here in the city of Vaughan want to read, want to learn, want to be on top of the game. And when we say thousands upon thousands, we're talking about actual physical.
Yeah.
If you count the virtual access that people have to our city, which, by the way, goes beyond our own city's border. We're in many other countries that people access our library system. And
Yep.
so overall, what you have is a modern community, a modern city with a lot of potential. But I often say that the credit goes to the citizens who work hard, who play by the rules, who give of themselves in a way that speaks to their real commitment towards city building. And so whether you're looking at a subway, a hospital, whether you're looking at, for example, we have a 900-acre park. It's bigger than Central Park in New York City.
Ooh.
And 100 to 200 years from now, people will look back and say that back today, there were people that actually cared about the environment. And they imagine 100, 200 years from now, having 900 acres of land, green space. It's going to be a real gift to future generations. And I also think that what's important in city building is not to build a city just for next week. You're building a city for centuries.
Exactly.
You don't build cities just for the immediate.
It's not settlement. It's not a settlement. It's a city.
Or according to electoral cycles. It's not an election campaign building a city. Building a city is a labor of love, and you have to shape it in a way that provides people with the greatest opportunity to achieve their full potential. That is fundamental. And a city cannot prosper and it cannot become the very best unless it provides opportunities for people to reach their full potential.
Yep. So we talked enough about the local economy. So let's go on to the housing, which you already sort of start, right? So I know that there's quite a number of like a tower in the metropolitan center.
Yes.
Like it's building up. As you know, there's a 5-tower transit city, 4-tower exposed city, and I think festival is like 3-tower. I cannot maybe.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So I can't remember the exact detail. So given last year the house price in GTA area I don't want to mention specific city because it can change. So the GTA area on average, raised by 13.5% in terms
Yes.
of the house price. And then, this year's project, 7%, which I think is underestimated. Many think that it'll be the similar, except, people want to talk such that it doesn't, you don't want to heat up the market quite a bit, right? So in that angle, we were talking to, like Mississauga Mayor Crombie.
Mhm.
They relatively, their house prices is lower. And the way that they did, they have lined up a lot of condominium build in the near the Mississauga downtown area. 25 towers upcoming in the next 4 years. So they maintain the supply so that they can sort of, get a balance with the affordability to a house. So not only do they do inclusion zoning, but they also focus on the house supply. How does city of Vaughan, cater in terms of house supply and the same time affordability of the house?
Yeah, of course, there are some affordable housing projects that are on their way, but it's very interesting. And I said this earlier, one of the ways which I've been able to increase housing supply, not just for now, but for in the future, is that I've asked developers that they should dedicate 10% of their projects to affordable housing. And so there are a number of projects now that will have 10% affordable housing, which means that in cooperation with the developer and the regional and municipal government, these individuals will be able to buy units. 10% of those units will be approximately anywhere between 20 to 30% cheaper than market price, because I believe in ownership, right? There's also some buildings that are going up now that are rental purpose building, which means if people will rent the buildings. And I think that's part of an evolution of the city, right? We didn't have that. Yep. Unless you're talking about secondary suites or some homes that people had rent. And so I think that affordable housing still is affordable, and I would say affordable, accessible housing is still a challenge. But because businesses also understand that in order to maintain a labor supply, you have to have affordable housing. See, affordable housing is always presented as a social issue. And it's not really a social issue per se. It's a social and economic issue. It's both.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, people need a place to live, right? And on the other hand, they play an important role in the functioning of the economy. By being the labor supply that is required for the production of products and services. And so what I found is that I needed to get the private sector involved, and I did. And as a result, now there's going to be projects where you're going to have this type of home ownership. There's no question about it. We used to hear about New York City and other areas in the world that were really expensive. The real estate was expensive. The reality is we're catching up to international markets. Like even you have to appreciate too that even with COVID-19, you probably have noticed some greater vacancies in the center of Toronto.
Yeah.
Because people now want some space. They want some room.
Yeah.
But those spaces are very expensive as well. So some people may use the condo market as an entry level, or if you're an elderly, as a way to downsize. When elderly citizens downsize, they're opening up space also for new generations of people that are building their families and so on.
Yeah, so I heard, some of the condo in the metropolitan center, they also set up some remote office so that the resident can go to use a remote office.
Yes.
That was very creative.
Yeah.
So let me shed another angle. Since you talk about 10% affordable housing unit and 5% about rental. If I remember correctly, York region, they are setting up the inclusionary zoning to 35% in the key development area, right? But that's 20 years time. So right now it's just starting, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask your developer to reduce to 20-30%, it may not sort of make sense, because that come to the the profit margin and a business case, right? So one of the things, for example, the house prices also increase. I understand the market, affordable plan very well, and they, set up certain decile of the, the affordable in terms of household income, right? So, like 30,000, they have the third decile is for the, what we call it, the bachelor suite. And then another level up will be one bedroom, another level up, two bedroom, three bedroom. So when we calculate the condo price, in those areas that they build, so they can only build a bachelor suite less, approximately 300 square feet today. But 5 years from now, maybe 200, right?
Yes.
So another thing that I was thinking, affordable rental is probably a good idea. So you can, the condo, builder, they can sell all these unit to a third party at a discount price, so that people know that because of these are rental, they sell it to the nonprofit organization. People not going to debate, with the market price that they affect. How come you can sell so cheap to the other people, right? So once this nonprofit organization get all this housing unit, and then they do it as if it's like a housing corporation, rent it out at an affordable price. That's some things that work in Vancouver. As a matter of one of our hosts in Vancouver was talking about it, with the Richmond Council. Is it
So,
some things that you guys have been looking at, or it's a tough
I will
issue?
say I will say something that the Vancouver experience. I know it quite well. As you probably know, I was a member of Parliament for 22 years before
Oh,
becoming
yes,
mayor,
yes, yeah.
and I visited many areas, including Vancouver. And back in the day, Vancouver East Side has major challenges. You probably remember,
Yep.
uh, and housing and health were the top issues back in the day, and they still are today. But I do think that one thing is for sure, and I think we can all agree with, is that housing as it stands today, the status quo is not an option. We need to change it in ways that we address the social and economic needs of people, and you could only do that with some government intervention as well. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look at a chart of affordable housing, when governments are involved, there's a lot of affordable housing being built. When governments withdraw, there's actually no units being built, or practically any. And so the response to affordable housing cannot just be simply market driven, because market driven,
Yep.
because of the pent up demand, prices will always go up. So there has to be an intervention by government. And I think that was probably the case in Vancouver as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we have to get to that point, because
Yep.
we're lagging behind in a very serious way.
Yeah.
And there are people, I mean, the lineup is
10-year, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
actually, if you look at without government intervention, it's really hard to have fully our big supply of affordable rental. Like Singapore, Hong Kong, those cities, the government invests a lot of money. It's a policy, basically, it's a basic policy to provide affordable housing. But in Canada, just like Mayor said, it's not ready yet
Yes.
for that route. So how about transportation? And then
Yeah. We are spending billions dollar on COVID CPR this last year. We can spend a percentage on the long term, affordable housing. Like
Yeah.
go back to the 70s, build a percentage of affordable housing. Like back then, we built about 500,000, and then we stopped. And then maybe perhaps we need to do another 100,000 this time of the
Yes.
life year. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, so we shall move on to the third question, which is also triggered by the COVID, with the a lot of people working from home, a lot of corporate, like with the like work balance, strategy, will sort of shift some of the workforce not to be traveling to the office downtown. So in that regard, we also see there's a lot of a decrease in the peak load, in particular in the morning. So so there may be a structural change maybe not, the 70% of the workforce work from home, but maybe 30 or 40%, may work from home as a result of the paradigm shift, because it also, like commercial rental downtown is skyrocketing. So a lot of corporate position may be positioned that way. We don't know. We don't have any judgment right now. How do you foresee the work from home is going to affect the way how you plan for transit and road expansion in the city of Vaughan?
Well, I think the issue here is how do you become proactive, not reactive to conditions? I delivered a speech to the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce prior to COVID, and I said that we're going to find the solution to gridlock with a big bang that's going to happen. And a few months later, COVID happened. And you probably remember early on in COVID, the streets there was nobody on the streets. And so that solved gridlock, some people would say, right? Mm-hmm. But what did it really illustrate? That unless you reorganize the workplace, there were answers. People but as society, we weren't willing to make the change. A simple way to have, addressed the issue of gridlock was through variable work hours. Not everybody has to start at 8 or 9 o'clock. Some people can start at 6. Some people can start at 5 if they want. Some people
flexi hour.
And so imagine if you're taking 20% of the traffic off, or 40%, or whatever the case may be. So societies have to understand that sitting in a car, you could be, the point I'm making is, and COVID has kind of actually taught us this as well, is I used to say that variable work hours, you don't need to build, 10 lanes for 2 hours a day. You don't need big roads, because at the end of the day, for 2 hours or 4 hours of the day, there is gridlock. But then if you're driving at night, you're driving by yourself sometimes. You've probably experienced that yourself, right? So the point I'm making is, how do you maximize the infrastructure that you build? And you maximize it by using it 24/7. That's how you do it, And you have to do it in a way that speaks to reorganizing society and how we work. So I don't know, some people that are morning people, for example, morning persons, right? They like to get up early. They like to do it. There are people that are, like to go to work at 9. Some people at 7. So, and companies have to adjust accordingly. So what happened with COVID? They did, because it was imposed on them, right? So now you and I are not meeting for this interview, but we're using technology. And isn't that what technology is supposed to do? Yep. Is it? Do I prefer this? No, I'm kind of a little bit old-fashioned, and I like to see people. I like to, look into their eyes. I like to feel the energy of the place. But this is what technology allows us to do. Technology allows us to get a lot more done. So in the future, when people say, I can't make the meeting because I can't drive up there, people will say, it's okay, just Zoom or do whatever, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so we learned a lot from it. But we knew this already, though. We just weren't willing to make the change. I mean, this meeting could have happened, 10
in the city hall.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to become a little bit more self-aware of the changes, and so the point I'm making is just like going to be a major.
What Mayor say, proactive is very important, and have a vision to foresee what's going on. Whether pandemic 19, maybe pandemic 20.
Yeah.
Regardless, we should prepare for pandemic 21. Then it will be like a good idea. That's why I think Vaughan have a new hospital, and that's fascinated for COVID-19 right now, and that open sometime already or this week.
Yeah, it's already open just for COVID now, but it will open. It will kind of utilize all its services later on when this surge of COVID-19 declines. But it's the first smart technology hospital in the entire country. It's 1.2 million square feet, potentially 500 beds or so. We're going to be the stroke center for York Region. There's going to be, ambulatory care and also mental health facilities as well. It's going to be a hospital that is going to take care of a lot of the needs. And remember, it's kind of interesting. This is a project that's very dear to me. It's, as mayor, was one of my dreams to make sure that a hospital would be built. And you probably remember that early on it was may or may not have built, but hope and optimism and commitment and drive is really the reason why we have the hospital in the city of Vaughan. Today, people came together, they focused again on a common mission, and I'm very happy that we have brought this, because when you think about it, and I look at my term, in 2010, we didn't have the subway. In 2010, we didn't have a 900-acre park. In 2010, we didn't have 60,000 jobs that now exist. In 2010, we certainly didn't have a hospital. So, it takes a lot of work, you have to be diligent. But when you look at the decade, though, and what we've been able to achieve from 2010 to 2020, it's simply spectacular what this city has been able to achieve. And as always, and I repeat this all the time, that the credit really goes to the citizens of Vaughan who work so hard to make everything happen.
Yeah, and also I believe the credit also go to you and your council. Basically, without an effective, efficient government, and citizen has all the idea, who execute, how to execute. That's also a very critical to the success. Yeah. That's how you compare City of Vaughan to other cities in Canada. Yeah. Why some can achieve, some still waiting for the opportunity to achieve. And basically,
I've been very fortunate to have had the confidence, strong vote of confidence from the people of Vaughan since 1988. When I first ran, as I was 28 years old. Now today I'm 60, and I spent my entire adult life serving people, which is really my calling. It is what I was put on earth to do. And I'm really grateful for the citizens to always express such great support. And I owe the joys of my life, in the sense of the call that I answered, that of public service, to those people who really who voted for me since 1988 and haven't stopped.
Yes, I think maybe Mayor and me are both are red. The red does not give us that great things in last year. I hopefully the year of ox coming up, and every people, all Canadian and the people on the world and globally, they're all getting better. Thank you so much for your interview. You give us a lot of insights, and then we may thinking of doing something in Vaughan as well. Our audience, we're thinking after all these knowledgeable sharing, and then we may be thinking about City of Vaughan. Really, it's a city above Toronto. That's the advertised. That's a brand I heard many years ago. City of Vaughan is a city above Toronto. Geographically correct. Right now, it may be other aspect still correct.
Thank you so much.
And once again, Gong Hei Fat Choi.
Gong Hei Fat Choi to everybody. Be well.
And thank you, Mayor, for visiting us, and should come more often. Yeah.
And
stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe. Yeah.
And you can visit this YouTube later this afternoon. Then we'll put it into a program maybe tonight. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.